figuring out how to multiply polynomials. And when we multiply polynomials, there are a couple of different ways that we can do this, but really it's just a big version of the distributive method. Um, we're going to talk about this thing over on the right side of my screen, this FOIL, but let's first go through a quick, easy example. Then we'll go through some examples with this FOIL method. So the first example is 4x times 2x plus 9. And so like I said, we're going to use a version of the distributive method, which means what we're going to do is take that 4x. The 4x is multiplying everything on the inside of the parentheses. So we have to multiply it by everything on the inside of the parentheses. We have to multiply it by the 2x and by the 9. The reason why we do that is because the 4x isn't just multiplying the 2x, and it's not just multiplying the 9. Because it's multiplying both of them, we have to multiply 4x by both of them. So I draw these arrows just to kind of represent, I'm going to do that to both of these things. You don't have to draw the arrows if you don't want to. It just makes it a little bit easier to remember what you're doing. So we're going to start with 4x times 2x. And 4x times 2x, we do 4 times 2, which is 8. And then x times x is x squared. Now when we multiply x's, what happens is we add their exponents. And these x's don't really have exponents, but if I just have an x, there's a little imaginary exponent of 1 on both of them. So 1 plus 1 is 2, which means that x times x is x squared, or x to the second power. Okay, so then 4x times 2x we know is 8x squared. Now we're going to do 4x times 9, and then so 4 times 9 is 36, and then 9 doesn't have an x on it, but the 4 does, so we're just going to tack on an x to the end of that. And my final answer ends up being 8x squared plus 36x. Okay, so now I want to go through an example with this FOIL thing that I have written down. Let me just write this down really fast. So when we foiling is just like a really big version of the distributive method. So in this case, we don't just multiply one chunk by something in parentheses, we're multiplying two sets of parentheses together. And when we multiply two sets of parentheses together, the goal is to get every different combination that we possibly can. And the easiest way to do that, especially when there's two terms in each set of parentheses, is with this FOIL. FOIL stands for first, outside, inside, last, as you can see. And so what that means is we're going to multiply the first two chunks together, get an answer. Then we're going to multiply the outside chunks together, get an answer. Then the inside chunks, and then the last chunks. And then we have our answer. So let's just kind of go through this. I'm going to use different colors. You definitely don't have to use different colors, but I would suggest at least showing the arrows so that you can make sure that you make all the different combinations that you have to. So the first chunks are 3x and 5x. We're going to multiply 3x times 5x. So 3 times 5 we know is 15. And then x times x, kind of like up in that first one, is x squared. Okay, now let's move to the outside. And the outside chunks are the ones on the very outside. So 3x and negative 7. So 3 times negative 7 we know is negative 21. And then the 3 has an x on it, so we're just going to tack an x onto that answer. Now we're going to move to the inside chunks. And the inside chunks are the two on the inside of the like in the very middle, so which is 1 and 5x, and 1 times 5x is 5x, because 1 times anything is itself. And then we're going to move to the last chunk, so we've got 1 and negative 7, and 1 times negative 7 is just negative 7. There's no x's to worry about in this case. So now we're done with this FOIL method, and this is our answer, but we can actually simplify it a little bit by combining like terms. As you can tell, we've got this negative 21x and this 5x, because they both have x's, they're considered like terms, so I can add them together. The 15x squared doesn't have a like term, so I'm just going to rewrite it. Then we've got negative 21x and 5x. When I add those together, I get negative 16x. And then that negative 7 doesn't have any like terms, so we're just going to rewrite that. And this is our final simplified answer. All right, let's do another one of those just to kind of keep practicing with the FOIL method. And that one is 7x minus 3, 9x plus 4. All right, so once again, sorry, I'm just going to zoom up a little bit so you can see FOIL. We're going to start with our first, which is 7x and 9x. And 7 times 9 is 7 times 9 is 63. And then x times x is x squared. Then we're going to do the outside chunks, which is 7 and 4. 7x times 4, 7 times 4 is 28. And then that 7 has an x on it, so the 28 also has to have an x on it. Now we're going to do the inside ones, which are -3 and 9. -3 times 9 is -27, and then x, because that 9 has an x on it. And the very last one is the last chunk, so -3 and 4, which gives me -12. Once again, you have these like terms in the middle with just one x. And so when we rewrite it, we're going to say 63x squared, because that one doesn't have any like terms. Then 28x minus 27x gives me 1x, so I can say plus 1x. And then minus 12, because that 12 doesn't have any like terms either. Awesome. All right, let's go through one more example. And this example is a little bit harder, a little bit bigger. So it is x squared plus 5x minus 5 times 2x squared minus 7x plus 1. So because both of these sets of parentheses have 3 chunks in them, we can't necessarily use FOIL, but we're going to use a bigger version of FOIL. Basically, what I want to do is make all of the different combinations that I can, and the way I'm going to do that is by multiplying each chunk in the first set of parentheses by everything in the second set of parentheses. So I'm going to start, and we'll just use different colors again, because I think it'll make it a little bit easier to see. We're going to multiply this x squared by every single chunk inside this second set of parentheses. So we're going to start with x squared times 2x squared. And x squared times 2x squared would give me a 2x to the 4th. Now, let's just review this. We know when we multiply x's and exponents, we add the exponents. So x squared and x squared, we have a 2 and a 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4. That's why x squared times x squared is x to the 4th. Okay, the next one is x squared times -7x, which would give me a -7x to the 3rd power, because we have an x squared and then that 7x has that little imaginary 1 right there, right? So 1 plus 2 is 3, so your exponent is 3. Now that last chunk is x squared times 1, and we know 1 times anything is itself, so we're just going to say plus x squared. All right, so that was the first chunk. Now we're going to do the second chunk, which is 5x. So this 5x will be multiplied by every single chunk on the second set, inside the second set of parentheses. So 5x times 2x squared should give me a 10x squared. Or I'm sorry, not squared, right? Because we add the exponents, so it'll be 10x cubed. That's a terrible 3. Let me try that again. 10x cubed. Okay, now we're going to do 5x times the second one, which is -7x. So that's going to give me -35, because 5 times 7, -7 is -35, and x times x is x squared, so I put an x squared on there. Then we do 5x times 1, which gives me 5x. All right, now hopefully you can guess, but the next thing is to do that very last one, that -5. We're going to multiply by everything on the inside of the second set of parentheses. So we start with -5 times 2x squared, which gives me -10x squared. Now -5 times -7x, negative times negative is positive, so it's going to be positive 35x. And then -5 times 1 gives me a -5. All right, so now this is our answer, but we're going to combine like terms. And I see an x cubed and an x cubed. I see an x squared, an x squared, and an x squared. And then I see an x and an x. So when we write this in standard form, we want to start with the highest exponent, which is x to the 4th. That one doesn't have any like terms, so we're just going to write 2x to the 4th. Then we want to do the x cubes, which are -7x cubed and 10x cubed. So -7 plus 10 gives me a 3x cubed. Now we're going to do the x squareds. We have just one x squared and then a -35x squared. So 1 minus 35, and a -10x squared. So we're going to do x squared minus 35x squared, which would give me a -34x squared. Then -34 minus 10 would give me a -44x squared. So that's adding 3x squareds together. Now we just do the x's, which are the 5x and the 35x. And so 35 plus 5 gives me 40, so I can say plus 40x. And then the last thing is the thing without any exponents, which is just that very last chunk, which is -5, because there weren't any like terms there. And there we have it. There's our answer. And this is